The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Yeah, Earnestly Speaking podcast. Let's get it. I'm a giant in New York, in Miami carry heat. So much more in store, my product can flood the street. Opinion Nation Godfather, CEO. Puff in the late 90s, gon' see me blow. Oh, got my hustle on, no imitation of bad. Army of untouchables, Opinion Nation staff. Never an off season, homie, check the numbers. Heartthrob in my own right, supplying southern comfort. Earnestly speaking, my ego is well fed. Earnestly speaking, you're too evil and no threat. See, I'm like a hurricane, you're a mild breeze. Earnestly speaking, leaving Eli a dynasty. Shake!
Earnestly Podcast, coming to you May 29th, 2024. First time guest on the show. We got friend and music critic Chris Lacy on the show. You can't really see him, unfortunately, though, because I guess his camera's not really working. Chris, what's up, buddy?
Hey, what's up, bro? How you doing, man?
I can't call it, man. Hey, look, I see your is that your avatar there?
Yeah, that is my custom avatar that I made. Yeah,
that's pretty cool, man. That's pretty cool. This has been a long time coming. But this I was a couple of years. I think I remember you asking me maybe about 2 years ago coming to the podcast, and I said we'll work something out at some point, and then it just didn't. I don't know, schedules or maybe, and then finally you said, you know what, let's make this happen now. You know?
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I came across when I realized you were a wrestling fan, I was like, hold up, like I thought I knew EJ, but I guess I don't know him that well because like I had no idea that he was into wrestling like I'm into wrestling. So
yeah.
So
I've known about you probably for about at least 5 or 6 years.
Absolutely,
you've been around the MJ community, of course, and a writer and all this stuff, and we share similar interests, but it wasn't until like probably the last year or two where we realized you also into wrestling too, especially that. And we'll talk about wrestling in a second. We got some takes now. We want to get off, and I'm looking forward to that. I don't remember exactly how we crossed paths though, but I know it's probably through maybe one of your articles you wrote way back when. I know you write. I don't know if you still write there for albumism. How you call it?
Yeah. So I was with him for about 3 years. That's where I first started writing, and I remember we had linked up previously then, and then once I realized that you follow another friend of mine, Matthew Allen. I know you keep up with him.
Yeah, he's been on the podcast a few times. Actually.
Yeah. So when I realized that you were, that you knew him, I was like, okay, like EJ's good people, man. Like he's really out here. He's really out here. So yeah, man. Like I think, just seeing you speak on Michael Jackson over the years, I was like, okay, like this is, he doesn't stay on the fringe. Like he's willing to go into the deep end and have, uncomfortable conversations and, and pull up with receipts like that. That's a huge thing for me. Yeah. So I appreciate you doing that. And
of course.
And then, recently when I realized like you were into wrestling, I was like, yo, like, EJ's my guy, man. Like I need to show up on the podcast, bro. That's what we need to do.
The MJ thing is cool because like I said, I'm I've been a fan I'm 44 years old. I've been a fan since I was probably 2 years old. Yeah. And it's interesting because it was me, like my mom's hardcore too. So it kind of passed on to me anyway. So it was one of those things where like I was ready. It didn't take much to get into it because I was exposed to it at an early age. And the same way, me and my friends have been hardcore for years. She was that one, but she was that way in the 70s and 80s. She followed the Jackson 5 all over every time they were in New York. Went to every show. You know what I mean? So it was one of those. She was my mom's one of those. So this kind of transitioned to me, whatnot. And I made a lot of friends through that space through the last 25 years. You know what I'm saying? So it's really cool, and I still maintain them to this day. It's really, really cool. And honestly, there's a lot of spaces that I've. I find media and I find like these spaces in general so fascinating because like whether it's the MJ space, whether it's the podcast space, the wrestling space, sports. Yeah. Do you know there are so many people who I've known for probably 10, 15 years that I talk to on a regular basis through social media or through this podcast that I've still not met in person. There are friends on the show. There are friends on the show that I literally been on the show and regulars, like for example, during football season, they have regulars like weekly that I just met for the first time like last month in person.
Yo, that's so dope, man. And that's one of the things I love about the internet. I mean, it is a tool, and it comes down to how the person uses it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm like you. Like I would say I won't say most. A good chunk of my friends, some of them stay in Africa, some are in Australia, Scotland. I mean, like they're all over the place. Yeah. And you're right though. Like I've been able to build some pretty, meaningful friendships out of that because of the fact that we had similar interests and we just happened to cross paths on this huge thing called the internet. So it's super dope how that worked.
It's a big world, but the internet shrinks it. It really does.
It does. Yeah. And I appreciate you, kind of taking me down like a quick history of your connection with Michael, because mine is very similar to yours, yet there's some unique qualities there. So through osmosis, like my mom grew up, like she was born in 70, grew up an 80s kid. So MJ and Prince, like she was all about it. So, when I was born in 1990, I listened to whatever she did. And Michael and Prince dominated, much of what I remember growing up. So, but a couple of unique things as far as my connection with Michael. I do have a dance background. I was pretty fortunate to dance with people that have either worked with Michael or worked with dancers that did, collaborate with Michael in the past.
Right.
And my dad lives in Gary, Indiana to this day.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, and I've had vitiligo since I was 12 years old.
Oh, you have vitiligo?
Yeah, I've had vitiligo since I was 12, and
wow.
that led to me being on. I did my first ever podcast appearance on the MJ Cast several years ago when they discussed the Bad album on the 30th anniversary, and I got to talk about my vitiligo and also, breaking down the album, from a music critic standpoint and things like that. So yeah, my connection with Michael.
It's funny because I actually just read. It's funny. I actually. Maybe about 2 weeks ago, because you had someone on your website, whatever. You wanted the reviews on not so much the album, but you were talking about another part of me, the breakdown of the song, and how underrated it is and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was reading that actually a couple weeks ago. Actually, it's
my favorite. Yeah, it's my favorite song on the record.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's my favorite song on the record, and probably my number one favorite song of all time if I had to pick.
Are you serious?
Yeah, dead serious. It's really between two songs that could take the number one spot. It's Another Part of Me and Remember the Time. Those are the two songs that flip-flop in the number one spot.
So I don't know if you have a top 10, but like my top 10 is literally.
Oh yeah, easy.
Deep. My top 10 is literal deep cuts though. Literal deep cuts.
No, but that's what I appreciate about you. Like that's what makes you a real one. Is like you don't just stay on the Billboard charts. You'll go into a deep cut. Yeah. Like
I'll put it this way. My if I gave I'll give it to you right now. My top 10 MJ songs all time. There's only one song that's really a mainstream hit. That's Beat It. That's it. And it's funny, like most hardcore fans don't care for Beat It.
That's crazy to me.
Most hardcore Michael Jackson fans don't care for Beat It. Like they'll say, "Oh, it's okay," but it's on the last, like the bottom of the list. You know what I'm saying?
Great. So there's only one. There's go ahead and share your top 10.
No. So my top 5 is definitely locked up. My top 5 in order.
Yeah.
First of all, my favorite song of all time is Unbreakable. All time, period. In discussion. Any artist doesn't matter. Unbreakable. I love Unbreakable.
Guess that.
I actually cried when that song came out when I first heard it when Invincible came out. Number 2, Earth Song. So that song technically will be a mainstream song in Europe. That song wasn't huge in America. It was huge in Europe.
Exactly.
Which is crazy. So that counts. Number 3 is Beat It. Number 4, Stranger in Moscow. And number 5 is Off the Wall. Then 6 through 10 is interchangeable, kind of, sort of, depending on how I feel in the day. So it's a combination of Speed Demon, Fall Again, which is an unreleased song.
Yeah.
Leave Me Alone. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to remember the other 2. God, I forgot the other 2. I'm blanking on this one. Why you want to trip on me? I'm Dangerous. And then I go back and forth sometimes with Scream sometimes, and a couple of songs here and there. I guess 10 is still open, but there's a lot of like Screams in there, could be in there on one day. They don't care about getting there one day. Butterflies, I've been on a Butterflies kick the last couple days actually. It's a lot of mixed match of songs, but my top 5 is my definitive top 5. 6 through 10 can be interchangeable sometimes. You know what I mean? What's your top 10?
Yeah. So like you, my top 5 is locked in. I've got Another Part of Me, Remember the Time, Baby Be Mine, Is It Scary, and Can't Let Her Get Away.
Interesting. A lot of dangerous stuff there. Wait. So 1, 2. Yeah. It's scary. I like that one. That's a good one.
Yeah. To me, like Blood on the Dance Floor gets the short end of the stick, which is crazy. And I understand it's a remix album. A lot of people don't consider it a true Michael Jackson album, but those 5, the quote unquote original songs.
Because it's really not, though. I mean, really be clear.
Yeah.
It's really not. Like, first off, I remember that day that album came out. First off, no one knew it was coming out. It came out of nowhere. I only knew about it because I'm like embedded into the communities. I knew I was 17. I knew, oh, this is coming out, and it didn't sell well initially because no one knew about it.
Yeah.
And once people knew about it, then people started buying the record. You know what I mean? So it was just something that all it was is like a repackage. Like a lot of those songs were really recorded, I think, for other sessions and stuff.
Yeah,
it wasn't
Dangerous
really
in History.
Yeah, it wasn't really done for an actual, album. It just was like a song full of like remixes and whatnot. And back then too, especially, I remember back in the 90s too, like when dance music was really at its peak. Michael tried tapping into that heavily with Dangerous in History. Not so much the songs, but also the remixing the songs. Like a lot of the singles I used to own back in the day, like the Who Is It single, for example. Some phenomenal dance mixes in there. History had a shit ton of those too, especially they had like a bunch of like a couple of singles, that have like 4 or 5 different like remixes of it, and a lot of it was dance related. They were huge in Europe. I know that they were huge in Europe.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And I would say stateside, probably one of the bigger ones was whatever Frankie Knuckles was doing at that time.
Yeah.
Probably got a lot of airplay back then.
Yeah. So yeah. No,
but 6 through 10 is like you said, just depends on what mood I'm in that day. Human Nature, Get on the Floor, Someone Put Your Hand Out. It's the last 2 that always get me.
So you see how you like me? You have a unreleased song on there too.
Yeah, absolutely. To show more love to the Bad Era, I'm gonna surprise some people. Like I'm gonna put today, I'll put "We Are Here to Change the World" from Captain Neo. Though that's one of my favorite songs.
Really? I love that song. Wrong. I love that song. Wrong, but wow, that's
And then I would put
is Bad your favorite album of Michael's?
Yeah, it is my favorite album of Michael's. Yeah.
So it's funny because I've been off the wall nut for years, but I think I'm kind of closer now to off the wall and Bad being like 1A 1B now, honestly.
Dang, yo, I love that because to me, like in other conversations I've had, like you couldn't find any more opposite. Like I've got like off the wall people, and then you hear Bad, and people that don't really care for Bad that much are like, man, I would like Bad more if it got recorded with live instrumentation like Off the Wall and Thriller did. Like they want to hear that.
But that's also what makes it special. You don't want to make it. We got that with those 2 albums. Why want the same thing? This was the evolution of his art. It's funny though because Bad. There was a time actually where Bad to me. There was a time where I used to think, well, gee, Bad sounds kind of dated. And then you listen to music that lasts like 15, 20 years. Like, oh wait, not dated at all. In fact, a lot of people reference that album as what they're doing today.
Thank you. Yeah, that's another edge that I give to Bad is that it was on the cutting edge, with the synclaver, and I mean, there's just a bunch of things, and fortunately, I'm one of the fortunate people that has a good friendship with Brad Sundberg. I mean, he put me on game on a lot of stuff that they did when they made the Bad album.
In those sessions,
So it was just like it wasn't. So when I got to interview him during COVID. He was doing a virtual in the studio with MJ series. And for the last one, he put himself in the hot seat and he reached out to me and said, hey, would you mind interviewing me? I'm like, yeah, of course. Like, I'd love to. And it was during that conversation that I and other Michael Jackson fans found out that like Rod Temperton was in the studio, but he was giving Michael pointers on things. Like if Michael wanted advice, he would go to Rod and say, hey, what do you think about this? Like, does this have like the right structure or right melody, right groove, that sort of thing? Because I always thought like Rod Temperton like was, working on other stuff, but he was actually in the studio in Westlake whenever Michael was, writing most of the songs for
a Bad album too? Or this was the first one off the wall? Wow.
That blew my mind. And I never knew that until I interviewed Brad that day. And there were a lot of longtime Michael Jackson fans who were like, oh, I never knew Rod was, still
involved in that project. I no, because you obviously know he's involved off the wall because he wrote Rock With You and he wrote a couple of songs there. He wrote obviously Thriller, the song itself. So obviously he's involved in that, but I had no idea he was involved in the Bad Sessions too. I had no idea.
Yeah. I'll have to send you the link for the interview because I'm sure it's still on Brad's channel. But yeah, it was during that conversation I found that I was like, wow, like I had no idea.
I still need to go. I still need to go to one of his sessions. I know he's doing one in Orlando, I think in July, but I'm not gonna be able to make it most likely. So
yeah, I plan on going to the one in Orlando. I know that he's overseas right now. But yeah, I've been to several of them in Orlando. I've been to the ones in Atlanta. Would love to go to the one in New York.
Are those? Does he do like newer material every so often? Like he changes it up every so often.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he does. So recently, and by recent I mean last year when I saw him, one of the newer pieces of content that he added was he found the boy that did the Russian, like he's shouting in Russian, Michael's name in "Stranger in Moscow." He actually tracked him down. And
the kid that says Michael during the bridge.
Yeah, it's during the bridge. Whenever he's, I don't know
Michael.
The sound. Yeah, Michael. Yeah, and I'm butchering Russian there, but but he but Brad tracked him down because Brad had footage, VHS footage of Michael coaching the kid, and his dad was there, saying, "Hey, like I want you to shout my name as if I'm like way far away, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And all that footage is there that Brad included, and then he would splice in the new footage of him talking to the kid who's now like in his 30s now.
Wow.
And 30s or 40s, and he's talking about what it was like working with Michael in the studio, and one funny part. Hopefully, I'm not giving too much away, but the funny part about the kid was he actually was playing Sonic the Hedgehog 3 at home. And his dad was saying, "Hey, like, like you can, like there's this opportunity to possibly do something with Michael Jackson." And he said, "No, I'd rather play Sonic 3," not realizing that the end credits of Sonic 3 that resembles Stranger in Moscow, which would come out a couple years later. So like that's just so dope how it all kind of weaves in together like that,
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just really cool to find that out from Brad, and it made me go back to the Bad album and have an even greater appreciation than I already have.
Yeah. We'll stick to music quick. We'll go to the Apple Music top 100 album list from last week that came out.
Yeah, let's do it.
Right. So did you see the list? Obviously,
I did. Yeah, and at first I thought there was no criteria, but then somebody shared with me a tweet that Ebro put out. Basically talking about the criteria, and I can appreciate the fact that they're, like I appreciate the bullet points that were there, but it was so broad that I'm like, okay, like I can sort of see where they're making an argument for this, but then I can't see how. So for instance, like an album like Control wasn't even in the top 30, which to me it should have been, but it fits all the criteria. Oh yeah, absolutely. Janet Jackson's Control is a banger.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it didn't make the top 30. It was like I'll have to go back and find where it fell on the ranking, but
I think 44.
Yeah. So to me, like
I'm bringing it up right now. Keep talking. I'll get it now.
Yeah. To me, an album like Control and to not even see Rhythm Nation on there, like I thought that was kind of crazy too. Like there were certain albums that didn't even make it. Like I know you're real big about Off the Wall. Didn't even show up on the top 100. I'm like, that's crazy to me.
Off the Wall, Bad should be in the top 100. Both of them should be.
Thank you. That's what I'm saying. Like you got Bad, 3 of Michael's albums.
I mean, Bad first is the 4th biggest selling album of all time. Okay, Off the Wall is W top 2025 all time. So I'm not saying sales to be all end all, but one MJ album on this list. That's it. This one.
Yeah.
Like what are we doing?
Yeah, that's crazy to me. And I'm glad that Prince got two spots, but to me, like I think it came in at like number 51. And I'm like, you're gonna have to do some serious convincing to tell me that there's 50 albums better than Sign of the Times. Like that's crazy to me. Yeah, that's nuts.
So I reacted to this actually on my solo pod last week when we had to move this podcast to today. So my initial reaction to this list when I saw that was like, I don't hate the list necessarily. What I did appreciate about this list is that it was very diverse. a lot of genres got represented here. Like, for example, a lot of rock got represented here, hip hop got represented here, metal got represented here. Like, I'm a big Metallica fan, huge. After Michael, my favorite artist, my favorite band is Metallica, and Master Puppets is number 669 on this list. And I love the fact that it got love there. I'm surprised that the Black Album didn't get more love though, because the Black Album is actually the biggest selling album of theirs. But that's neither here or there. But like for look at this list though, I appreciated the fact that there was a lot of diversity on this list. So that's why I felt I didn't fall asleep too mad about it initially. Then I woke up next morning, I'm like, wait a second, hold on, we got to think about this a little harder. Like, no, to Beyonce, but how's Lemonade? Look, Lemonade is probably her best record, but how's Beyonce's Lemonade number 10? Yeah, that's way too high.
And we haven't even talked about the number 1 pick yet, which I'm sure we'll get to. But that
we can start it now because here's the thing. With that record, the Lauryn Hill album.
So don't get me wrong, Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, great album to me. Out of the albums that showed up on the top 100 list, I could see it being top 30, but not number 1.
So I'm gonna be honest with you. This didn't piss me off at all. This did not piss me off whatsoever. Like it did not bother me. Because, and one day I'll do this. When I think about unskippable albums, top 10 albums for me, personal for me, that's my top 10 personal albums for me. That record is a game changer because it had so many genres represented in it. Gospel, R&B, hip hop, soul, you name it. And so I understand why this album, because it's more modern, especially to now. It's newer than Thriller. Like we know Thriller's obviously the biggest song of all time, still sells about 1 million copies a year, but the Lauryn Hill records is the most newest, freshest. I think a lot of people still represent that album in a way, in a fresher way. Whereas the rest of the albums on this list, 2, 3, and 4, Thriller, Abbey Road, and Purple Rain, are older. Yeah. So I guess they want to get some love to the newer modern artists, I guess. But to be honest with you, the Lauryn Hill thing did not bother me whatsoever. Honestly, it did not bother me. The rest of the list did though.
Yeah, and that's interesting to hear because again, like I started making my list and I made it to out of that, and again, I just stuck to the albums that they had on their list. I made it to like at least 73 albums that I re-ranked, and as of right now, I've got Miseducation of Lauryn Hill at number 33.
Oh. So wait. So what's your top 10 then, in order?
Yeah. So if I took the albums that they have on this list and re-ranked them and gave you the top 10, so from 10 to 1, I got Enter the 36 Chambers, Wu-Tang Clan.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, I got Joni Mitchell's Blue.
Okay.
Bob Dylan's Highway 61 Revisited.
Okay.
John Coltrane, The Love Supreme. Number 6, Metallica, Master of Puppets.
Oh, love it.
Yep. And then number 5, Beatles Revolver.
Okay.
Miles Davis Kind of Blue, number 4.
Okay.
Then David Bowie, A Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. That's number 3. Beatles Abbey Road, number 2. And then Stevie Wonder Songs in the Key of Life, number 1.
So no Michael top 10 at all.
Yeah, I believe it or not, Thriller when I re-ranked it, Thriller came in at number 23, and then Sign of the Times is at number 22, just above it.
Even though those are favorite artists of all time.
Yes.
And why? What was the reason why you had them so low?
Yeah, so I was trying to be as objective as possible. So I did research on what users liked, and then also what critics liked. So there's a few different websites that I found, like acclaimmusic.com, albumoftheyear.com. And I even looked at, how Apple would rank theirs and went back and looked at what Rolling Stone did. So I tried to come up with like a consensus average. And then I also included my personal rankings of those albums, because I wanted to weigh in. And then when I did the averages, I'm like, okay, I can see how, personally, to me, Thriller should be no lower than 5 on anybody's list. But when I weigh in other people's opinions, then I'm like, okay, it's at least top 25 because I can name other albums and be like, okay, I can see that. Like I can see the argument of, putting an album above Thriller, but personally it's no lower than 5 on my personal list.
Well, I'll say for the record that Thriller isn't even in my top 4 Michael Jackson albums. Favorite albums, Michael Jackson, for the record. Personal favorites. It's not
interesting.
No.
Okay.
I'm bad off the wall. I'll take. I prefer listening to off the wall, bad, dangerous. I would say even history. I prefer listening to over. Yeah.
Okay.
And then even
I'm
like
not mad at that.
and even Invincible to some degree. I would probably still listen to more than Thriller. Like other than like Beat It and like maybe Mine and. But I will say though, Thriller album is definitely grown me a little more in recent years because there were some years I just didn't listen to the album for a long time because come on, you get sick of hearing the same songs, Billie Jean over and over and over and over. Okay, enough, we get it. You know what I mean? But you look at the sequence in the album though, and from that era it was, it's a fantastic album. So you can't hate on it as much. But I love Michael's later work, to be honest with you, so more than most.
I'm not mad at that.
Yeah, but that's just me. What else stood out to this list though? What else stood out to you that was like either positive or negative?
So I'm looking. So I'm surprised that Usher's Confessions came in at number 95.
Why it was too high or low?
No, I thought it was too low.
It wasn't. The album was huge. It was a big album.
Yeah. And again, born in 1990, album came out 2004. Like that for my generation, that was our Thriller. Like, I mean, you couldn't go anywhere without hearing something from Confessions or seeing a music video or seeing him on tour. I mean, like it was everywhere.
Is it me? Is it me with this Usher? Like, I remember back in the mid 2000 when after Justin Timberlake left NSYNC and he went solo.
Yeah.
This. And look, I'm not trying to be a hater. I like both artists, but did it feel like the media was going to push down Justin down our throat, but Usher was the bigger artist, selling more product than Justin? I just felt like the media tried to push Justin down our throat, but at the end of the day, Usher was selling more product. Like Confessions. No.
I would agree with you there because I think there's a couple of different factors. So you have Justin coming out of NSYNC, you got the Justin Britney breakup, then you got Cry Me a River and the whole Justified album, that whole campaign. And then after that, he started venturing into acting and stuff. And then shortly after that, it comes out with Future Sex Love Sounds, which I think is a dope record.
Yeah, I love that actually.
But no, I'm with you though, because if you look at how Usher started, you got a self-titled album, My Way, 8701, which is an underrated album to me. And then he comes out with Confessions, and then that's when Usher and Chili go through their breakup. So people are like, oh, like what happened? It was like a real life soap opera unfolding in front of us. And then here it is, like captured on wax. There's stories that come from Usher's life and just Jermaine Dupri, Brian Michael Cox. Like there's different people that had their input on the overall like drama of the record,
Right. Yeah. Madonna, Like a Prayer at 77. Obviously a phenomenal record. Probably a little too low, maybe a little bit. I do think Ray of Light though is on par.
No, I'm with you.
I'm a Ray of Light fanatic.
Yeah. And to be honest, when it comes to the holy trinity of pop, it's Michael, Prince, and Madonna. And I'm surprised that Madonna only had one album show up on this list. Like, I'm like you, like I expected to see like True Blue, Ray of Light. I could even make an argument for, her self-titled record, honestly, because
I'm gonna give a hot take here real quick, and I know it's pissed off a bunch of fans, especially Janet fans, when I say this, but Madonna way more impact in the industry than Janet Jackson has. Way more impact. It's not even close. I think it's a conversation. To be honest with you.
I'm not mad at that. I'm not. No. I was gonna say I'm not mad at that, but go ahead. I'm curious to hear.
I'm not saying because of preference. I prefer Janet over Madonna, but
right, yeah.
But Madonna was impactful in a time where females couldn't do the things she did. Like she was very racy at a time where she took the sword for a lot of women back then to doing what she did.
Yeah,
she was the first to do it. Like Janet being racy became more regular and more cool, but Madonna sounded the sword for that first.
Exactly. Yeah, like she was the female Prince in a lot of ways.
She was way more
Prince.
Like a lot of the feminism in the music, you see from females, they last like 20, 30 years. You can argue Madonna was the captain of that.
Okay, all right. So if that's what we're going off of, I'll take what you're saying about Madonna, and then I'll raise it by asking you, do we need to give credit to Grace Jones before we go to Madonna?
Grace Jones get credit, but I think Madonna took what it'd be like what James Brown is to MJ. Like James Brown was huge.
Okay,
MJ,
all right, yeah.
MJ,
So,
MJ, MJ. It's like Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. Okay, they're great. They're big, top 10 all time. Michael Jordan's great all time. This is that simple.
Yeah.
He took that. He took that and took the higher places.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. As far as impact, I'm with you 1,000%. Like Madonna is up there with Michael and Prince, but as far as being an all around talent and body of work, I would give it to Janet. As far as body of work and being an all around talent. Yeah.
Other than that, anything else on this list? I don't. Like I said, I think this list was pretty well represented for the most part. Look, a lot of people are pissed off that certain albums get there, but look, you have 100 albums, and the millions of albums been made throughout the centuries of music. Yeah. I mean, I will say a lot of good records got represented here. I will say that much.
The only ones that really bothered me, and again, not only their, I guess their inclusion and also their ranking. To me, I still think Miseducation of Lauryn Hill should not be number one. It should be on the list, but it should not be number one. Frank Ocean's Blonde, I don't think that is the 5th best album ever made. I personally, if you want to talk about Frank Ocean, I say Channel Orange is a stronger record than Blonde.
Okay. And first of all, and only that album is just not better than Songs of Your Life. I'm sorry, ain't happening.
Exactly. Thank you.
Hey, what are we doing?
Yeah. Like it doesn't make sense. And I think if you even ask Frank Ocean, he would not tell you that his album is better than Stevie Wonder's. Like, I don't think he would.
Yeah.
Good Kid, Mad City, great album, but To Pimp a Butterfly is the better record, and it did not show up on this list at all.
Yeah. Like I said, same thing with Michael and Bad and Off the Wall. A lot of artists in top 10 cracking it.
Yeah.
But two Beyonce albums, though? Come on, that's too much. I mean, give me one Beyonce album's fine. 2? No, stop.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Now, this may shock some people because I love Amy Winehouse, but I think Back to Black is way too high on this list.
Is it top 100, though?
Oh, no, yeah. It's definitely top 100. Top 100. Let's see. I'm looking on my list. Where did I have Back to Black?
I'm surprised Kanye West. Not that he's on the list.
Oh, yeah.
But that album, which way I love. That's actually my favorite album of Kanye West. Is My Beautiful Dark. I can't talk today. My Beautiful Dark Fantasy. On the list. I'm actually happy it's there because that's my favorite album of his. But 26 is way too high, though.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, and I'm like you. Like I love My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. I'm surprised that College Dropout and even Late Registration.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
I didn't see that there. Back in Black, or Back to Black, I should say, not Back in Black. That's Metallica. Back to Black.
That's AC/DC actually.
Yeah. AC/DC. Thank you. Yeah. Back to Black. I have that at number 56.
Okay.
On the list. Yeah. So like it's still worthy being on the list. I just think number 8 was way too high. Yeah. And then Lemonade to me is like get that out of here.
Great record though, but way too high.
Yeah. Good record. And then Taylor Swift 1989. I can't help but think that there's some politicking on that for number 18.
Well, a lot of the top 20s. A lot of top 20s there's the politicking. A lot of top 20s. Yeah. I think Lauryn Hill's politicking, but that's just me. You know?
Oh yeah.
That being said, though, what is your personal? By the way, the topics on the show today mostly were brought up by you. So you're the creator of these topics here, which is fine.
No, you're good.
I need a break anyway, so good.
No, you're good. No,
what is your personal music albums Mount Rushmore then?
Yeah. So my 4 albums on Mount Rushmore. Do you want me just breaking down one by one, or just give you the full 4?
Go full 4.
Okay. So full 4, I go Songs in the Key of Life, Stevie Wonder. To me, that is the best album ever made. And by best meaning it didn't sell as much as other albums, but when you look at just the full scope of what he did, and this is another thing about Stevie Wonder I think we take for granted. The man is blind, and the fact that he can do all of this, like do most of the legwork on this album, like. He put on a 105-minute masterclass on how to make the songbook to life. This is coming from a blind man that has never seen anything that we've seen.
Some may say allegedly.
He's
blind. He's blind. I mean,
I've seen the videos and they make me laugh. They're like, oh yeah, I saw Stevie Wonder driving, and like all that. Yeah, but no, like that to me is just that's so fascinating. Is that somebody who has a disability yet found a way to create music that connects with all walks of life, regardless of how you grew up or what country you're from. Like everybody rocks with this album.
Yeah.
And again, if somebody wanted to say Songs in the Key of Life should be number 1 on Apple's list, you would get no argument from me whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like the next one, Sign of the Times by Prince, to me, that is his best record. After everything he went through, starting out in the 70s and building the revolution in the 80s, he disbands the revolution and he's back to being a one-man band for the most part. Many of my favorite songs are on this album. Title track, Housequake, Ballad of Dorothy Parker, If I Was Your Girlfriend, I Can Never Take the Place of Your Man, The Cross, Adore, to me, which is the best love song ever written.
Adore is amazing, and the lyrics is amazing.
Yeah, like that is a wedding song. Like you could play that at a wedding during the reception, and it's a banger. And then my next album, Bad, Michael Jackson. Like we got to remember, like nobody had to compete with the biggest album ever made besides Michael Jackson. Like that makes him one of one. Like he had to conquer hype going into Bad, and instead of trying to repeat the same thing as Thriller, which I know he wanted it to sell over 100 million albums, but instead of trying to do Thriller Part 2, he found a way to challenge himself by taking on the brunt of the songwriting credit. I mean, like 9 of 11 songs came from Michael, Yeah. And when you look at the full campaign of what he did, like you not only get more of Michael in the songs, you get more short films. I mean, like, try to imagine a world without Smooth Criminal, Leave Me Alone, Bad, like short films like that. That's like it just changed the game there. And then when you saw him on tour, I mean, dude, like he like performed 9 in, 9 out for almost 2 years, and he's 30 years old. Like he could have took a night off, but he didn't. I mean, like man was on a mission, like to put himself out there. And we got to remember, like during Thriller, he didn't have the luxury of doing a solo tour because he was with his brothers at the time.
Yeah, and that's the amazing part about Thriller. People forget too. Also, he didn't tour for that.
Yeah,
tell you
exactly.
That's a victory tour, not a Thriller tour.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So this is the first time that we really get to see Michael as like the biggest artist in the world, and it's before the child abuse allegations and all that. Like to me, that's like the purest, solo superstar Michael moment.
It's certainly my favorite. It's certainly my favorite era of Michael Jackson is the Bad era.
Yeah,
by far.
For sure.
Not even close.
Yep. Last but not least, this is a bit of an oddball, but it's a sentimental one. The official soundtrack to The Lion King from 1994.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I surprised a lot of people with like the movie soundtracks that I'm into. Like there's a lot of stuff that I have in my collection where like, oh, I never would have thought that you had this soundtrack in your collection. Huge fan of Hans Zimmer, Elton John, Tim Rice. Like they did such a masterful job of not only creating songs that kids like me could sing to, but the Hans Zimmer stuff, like it's just gorgeous music. Mm-hmm. Like you can listen to it in the car, or you could be watching the movie, and it still stirs some sort of emotion in you. And what you're watching, like it just ingrains in your brain the scenes from that movie, and no matter where you go, I mean, it just sticks with you. And then a couple years ago, my mom and I went to there was a Broadway show that came through South Carolina, and it was The Lion King. It was the New York Broadway team that came through, and we saw them. And I never thought that I would love Broadway. Like to me, it's just like it seems so uppity. like that's how it came to me. But there were several times throughout that show, my mom and I looked at each other and we were like, wow, it is amazing what they did. And the music was a huge part of that experience. So,
right.
So yeah, Songs in the Key of Life, Sign of the Times, Bad, Lion King soundtrack.
So
What
what
about
I wanted to do, I wanted to make this a little more broader because people want to assume if I do this list, it's going to be obviously Michael records, Metallica records, and Queen records. Those are my three. Those are my three favorite music acts of all time. So I decided to take those acts out of this because it's just not interesting. If I set Off the Wall bad, It Does It For All, and then Innuendo, or was it the Night of the Opera by Queen. That's boring.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that already. So this is my Mount Rushmore minus Michael Jackson, minus Queen, minus Metallica. Okay, they're
Ooh,
out.
okay.
Out. Okay.
Let's hear.
Now we have more fun. My first record is Toxicity by System of a Down. That's unskippable. Yes. That is an unskippable album for me. I was not the biggest System of a Down fan at all growing up. I actually hated the first album when it first came out. This was the second album, and all of a sudden I heard this record, like, whoa, this sounds really good, and it's raw. It's raw. So, and every song is amazing. Every song is a 9 or a 10. So Toxicity is 1. Second record here, just like you, Steve Wonder, Songs Key of Life. Also,
that's what's up.
Yeah. So yeah, we have that.
Great.
Number 3, Lauryn Hill, Miseducation with Lauryn Hill.
Oh, of course.
I played that record so much in 1998, 1999 that I had to buy multiple CDs because I scratched it so much.
Whoa. I never would have guessed that.
My dad and I killed that CD, our CDs of that. We had to buy extra copies. That's how good it was. Wow. And then number 4 may shock you because I wanted to diversify the list by genre. I went Busta Rhymes, Extinction Level Event.
Whoa, you're kidding. Yo,
Busta Rhymes is my favorite hip hop artist of all time, for the record.
Wow. Yes. Okay. You know, man, see, you surprised me, man. That is such a dope pick. Because my favorite song on that record is Give Me Some More. Like, that song and the video are crazy to me. Like,
it's just crazy. The whole album is visually is great. The videos, and Busta Rhymes was ahead of his time, like what he was doing back then. It's amazing how much he's not as big as he probably should be, honestly. But that's just here or there. I mean, I guess politics where it may be, but there are other albums I considered. I consider Voodoo by D'Angelo. It's coming on the list also. I consider other albums of that nature. But I wanted to remove Michael, Queen, Metallica because I wanted to make it more open to other artists I do love. Silent Times was another album I considered putting in there as well too. By Prince. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Had I known that you were going to go by those rules, my Mount Rushmore.
There's no rules though. I just decided to do Mount Rushmore based because it's I love so many records. There's so many albums that I like. Look, one album is my top 15, top 10, top 15 is Steve Winwood, Back in High Life.
Wow. Okay.
People
I dig that. That's good.
No one to consider that, but I love that album.
Yeah.
So, like I said, there's a lot of albums that people won't consider, because they don't think about it, I guess. But there's so many records I've loved through the years that I want to give some love, and I want to remove Michael, Metallica, and Prince out of the equation. That way, I get more room to breathe because it's too easy to give those albums. Because again, I'm sitting here, for example. My birthday, my wife got me this, the vinyl for Justice for All.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So, sitting right here.
That's
it's not fair. It's my favorite album of Metallica's.
Yeah. So I'll tell you if just honorable mention, I'll just mention one album because I know we got a lot that we got to cover. But if I could have slid if Mount Rushmore had 5 faces, the 5th album I would have slid in was Guy's self-titled record from '88. That Groove Me, I Like. Yeah, all those songs like that.
That song is sick.
It is. It's so sick. Like I love that album. Well, so for starters, New Jack Swing is my favorite genre of music. Period.
Is it really? Okay.
Yeah. Anytime you play it, like you're gonna have a good time. You could play it at a wedding reception. You could play it at a pool party. You could have a house party, whatever. Like you're down to have a good time when you hear New Jack Swing. But yeah, what Taylor Riley did with Aaron Hall and even Albie Shore sang like he went uncredited on the song "You Can Call Me Crazy." Like he sings on that, so it's just it's such a dope record. No skippable tracks on that album for me.
One day we'll do a top 10 unskippable album. I don't know if you have 10 albums that unskippable, but I have about 15 unskippable.
Oh yeah, I'd love to be a part of that.
Definitely do that one. Total Wrestling.
Yeah, let's go.
So you came up with this topic also. Again, you came up with this topic for this episode. and you wanted to do some wrestling hot takes, and
Yes.
basically you were saying what wrestling opinion could land you hot water. So I have 3 takes. I'm going to spit out to you. How many takes do you have?
I just gave you I just listed one. I wanted to give you my hottest take.
Okay. Okay. You want to go yours first?
Sure. Yeah. I'll go first, and then I'd love to hear the 3 that you came up with.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
What is one take that you have that is that you will land your hot water from wrestling from the IWC, as you call it? Yeah.
I believe that the WWE should stop pretending like Chris Benoit doesn't exist, and they should put him in the Hall of Fame.
Oh my God, that's what's funny. That's my list. Yeah. That's right there, my first one.
Yo, you lying? No, you serious?
No.
Wow.
That's what now. Hold on. No, if I put it on the screen, my list here. Hold on. But yeah, Benoit. I'm with you. 100%.
Man, yo, see, you're a real one, bro. I appreciate you.
I'll start right now. Hold on, my list.
Yo, I believe you.
Okay.
So like, think about it, like when people, and again, it is tragic what happened.
Yes.
Like I wouldn't wish that on anybody. But when people, when I find out the reason why they don't want to put him in there, like they say, oh, well, killed his wife and kid. I'm like, okay, well, nothing in life is perfect. I mean, we can look at Vince McMahon right now. There's a reason why he's no longer in charge, with the sexual misconduct. And I mean, he didn't use the N-word.
He's no longer there anymore. He's no longer there, period.
Exactly. Like he's no longer there. Like the Triple H era has begun, as of WrestleMania 40. And then, I mean, and you probably remember this, kid, because you keep up with wrestling, is that there was a time that Vince McMahon used the N-word in a segment with John Cena during the Ruthless Aggression era. And people let that ride.
Who's going to find that real quick? That's funny. That's funny. But keep going. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. But again, like there's countless people that have done things that should keep them out of a Hall of Fame, but they're in there. Hulk Hogan has a history of racism and prejudice and backstage politicking. Shawn Michaels, my favorite wrestler of all time, used to be a drug addict and lied about the Montreal screw job, saying that he knew nothing about it when in fact he did. Ric Flair, history of road rage and alcoholism. Kurt Angle, domestic abuse, drug and alcohol stuff. Edge and Lita have a history of infidelity when in their angle with Matt Hardy. They had the nerve to put that on TV and made it into a whole feud. Booker T served time for armed robbery, and Jimmy Snuka got arrested and charged with third-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter. So, like, the examples go on and on and on. So, I mean, if you're going to keep Chris Benoit out for that reason, then you need to leave everybody else out.
Yeah, if you're going to pick and choose, I mean, that's just. I'm with you on that one. Benoit. I swear to God, it was on my list because.
No, I believe you.
You can separate the two. Benoit was a phenomenal talent, truly one of the greats. You can acknowledge his talent. You can acknowledge. You have to acknowledge him in terms of like, oh yeah, Chris Benoit. You can acknowledge him as a talent. We know what he did. He's a scumbag. What he did, obviously, and it is what it is. But you can't erase him because if you're gonna start playing that game, then just stop the company. Just stop the company. Because a lot of bad shit we have in this company that we've seen through the years from guys. Steve Austin, still today gets the biggest pop. Was also a domestic abuser too.
Yep,
we do know that. By the way, I mentioned this. I wanted to play this real quick. Here on the screen, you see that? I want to play Big Man. Big Man saying N-word.
Got it. There you go.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, here's where the evil genius kicks in. Is like we all have seen the moment where Booker T is talking. He's cutting a promo on Hogan and WCW. He accidentally says the N-word with Sensational Sherry behind him and Stevie Ray next to him. So to put Booker T in that moment, it was a mistake. But for Booker T to be in that segment with Vince and John Cena, like it's a hat tip. Like they knew what they were doing. So like if you're gonna erase Chris Benoit from wrestling history for what he did, and then pretend like all the other great stuff that he did in the ring doesn't exist, then we got to start cutting everybody out.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on that one.
Everybody falls short on something.
So since we already shared one take already, you and I shared a take already on the Benoit because I had it on the list, like I said. Other two takes. Here's a second take here. Hulk Hogan's a goat. Is a goat. Deal with it.
Yeah,
I get the whole. It kind of sort of swings with the whole Hogan, with the whole Benoit thing. Mm-hmm. A lot of people like when they do these top lists. Of course, they put Hogan lower now because they don't like the guy. I don't like that. You have to
Yeah.
acknowledge that Hulk Hogan, a large part of why WWE is where it's at is because of Hulk Hogan. A very large part of Hulk is because of Hulk Hogan.
Absolutely.
It can be argued it started with Hulk Hogan. It can be argued that the mainstream of pro wrestling of the WWE was because of Hulkamania.
Mm-hmm.
People don't understand that Hulk Hogan back in the 80s was on level with Michael Jackson and Eddie Murphy. Like
Yes.
he wasn't just a huge celebrity, he was a huge wrestler. He was a huge celebrity, a brand in its own. And we have to acknowledge that.
And remember, I mean, he showed up in Rocky 3. He was Thunder Lips. You know what I'm saying? Like he was in movies and commercials and TV shows and everything. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So we need to acknowledge, okay, again, like Benoit, Hulk Hogan, we don't have to like the guy, like his politics behind the scenes, what he's done, and all that. But is Hulk Hogan Mount Rushmore all-time wrestling? Absolutely. WWE all-time Mount Rushmore? Absolutely. It's not even the conversation for me. It's not even a conversation. Not a thought. My last take is might piss off a lot of folks, especially people in between the ages of 30 and 40. I'm sorry, but I think the Attitude Era is overrated as hell.
You know, I'm actually not mad at that. I'm not mad at that. Now let me ask you, what is it about the Attitude Era that makes it overrated?
I don't like the fact. Okay, one of the things about me, like obviously it was top heavy. Mm-hmm. Austin, Rock, Taker, Triple H, Mick Foley doing their thing. Their top five was established. What I hated about the Attitude Era was that I thought the mid card didn't matter as much. It was so much smut and so much focus on shock value week to week because, again, they're in this battle against WCW to outrate each other every week. Who has better ratings week to week? That a lot of times storylines in the mid card especially just suffered. You know, that you didn't get the longer drawn out storylines that the way you should. Like obviously, you got about Austin. I'm not including Austin. I'm not including The Rock and all that stuff because they got that. Right. But I thought the mid card stuff. I thought the fact that there was less priority on the IC Championship was a problem. Yeah, there was less priority on the Intercontinental Championship, less priority on the Tag Team Championship as well too. It wasn't until we got to the Dudley Boys, Hardy Boys,
Edge and Christian,
triple threat matches all the time that brought back the tag team priority again. Mm-hmm. But there was so much focus on the top of the card that I thought the middle of the card suffered a lot.
No, and again, I think that's totally fair. Is that like there's a tendency to simplify history, like we romanticize this, but we gloss over this, and you're right. Like when it comes to the mid card, and even the quote unquote curtain jerkers, like anybody that was holding the IC belt or even back then the lightweight the light heavyweight championship belt, like. Mm-hmm. Those belts got overlooked because everyone was focusing on the world title, the WWF title at that time.
And to be honest, even the world title, to some degree, got kind of left by the wayside because, like, this is something that I've been saying for years. Stone Cold Steve Austin to me is the greatest superstar in history of WWE. Okay, but he's not one. But he's not one of the greatest champions though, because
I would agree.
Name me a title reign that stands out with Austin. Nothing because they hot potato that belt so much in that era. Mm-hmm. Austin wins in 14, loses to Kane 2 months later, gets it back at the very next night on Raw.
Yeah.
He spent go ahead.
Yeah, I could play devil's advocate there. Is that while the hot potato does make it seem like the title doesn't have enough value, you got to consider who was holding the belt at that time: Austin, Rock, Taker, Kurt Angle, Triple H,
Foley.
Yeah, Foley. They had a lot of guys that were worthy of being, carrying the belt, but there were only a few folks that could be like the face of the company. Like that is rare air.
I just like memorable reigns.
Yeah.
I like memorable reigns. And I also think all the WrestleManias in the era too were not that great. Like people say 17. Now I say that knowing that Mania 17 was still technically part of the era, but many argue that Mania 17 was the night that the era ended. So does really consider it Attitude Era Mania? They wouldn't give it that, fine, but people consider that Mania as the night that the Attitude Era ended because Mania 14 was okay. 15 sucked. I'm sorry, I think 15 sucked. It's actually the worst Austin Rock match I think I've ever seen of the bunch they've had. 16 was awful. I watched it again recently. It's still awful. And again, 17. Okay, you want to consider it Attitude Era Mania, fine, but people consider that Mania as the very bookend of the Attitude Era. So
yeah, I would say the biggest point of criticism I've seen about 17, and I agree, is that there were too many false finishes, that they watered down certain finishers for certain wrestlers. Like
Mania 17.
Yeah. There were a lot. There were several false finishes where it's just like, okay, like, you know, we expect this person to kick out because they've already kicked out 4 other times in this match. You know,
right? But 17 to me still, in terms of quality, like match to match, I will say is probably the best WrestleMania of all time. Probably.
Yeah. If we're looking at the entire match card, I agree from top to bottom.
I'm actually watching it right now as we speak. I'm actually watching all WrestleManias in order. I'm on 17 right now as we speak. No, so you probably don't know this, but I took a 17-year hiatus from wrestling after 2002.
Yeah,
I didn't watch the current product until 2019. So Manias 20 through 35, I have not watched in full.
Yeah, I remember.
Matches. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say a couple months ago you had told me that that hiatus that you took. So I was like, so you haven't seen HBK and Angle at WrestleMania 21, or you haven't seen?
I actually watched a month ago for the first time.
Phenomenal. Yeah, and exactly. That to me, it stole the show. For that.
I've seen the matches that matter. I've seen the heist with Seth Rollins and I've seen Brock and Taker. The streak, and I've seen the big matches in between because. Mm-hmm. In hindsight, going back to watching them just because I wanted to, but to watch the entire show, I have not watched the entire show from 20 to 35.
Well, I tip my hat to you for going back and rewatching those from start to finish, because it's rare that people do that. So it's good.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. A couple of WrestleManias I watch are tough watches. Actually, though, I will say, like I said, WrestleMania 2016, we'll call it tough watch. That's a tough watch. It really
was a tough watch. Yeah, wasn't that Oh, that was the Terminator theme one, wasn't it?
No, that was the Four Corners of Fort McMahon's. The Four Corners.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard you say 2016. I'm sorry.
No.
You're talking about you said WrestleMania 2000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rock
so
versus
Rock
versus Hunter versus Mick Foley versus
Foley and Big Show
and McMahon in every corner.
Yeah. Yep. That's it.
Yeah. Which, to be honest, you look back in hindsight, like. I don't know why they did that in the first place. I know they wanted to because of the big story they had with the McMahons at that time. But I thought at that time, Hunter and Rock were big enough to headline the WrestleMania themselves.
Absolutely. And the fact that we haven't seen that, and I mean, we can't see it now because of Hunter's health. Like he had that health scare a couple years ago. But it's a shame that we didn't get a Rock Triple H main event. No,
and it deserved it. It really did.
Yeah.
I think the Attitude Era is overrated as hell. I think it's over. Now look, guys, for the record, this is a podcast. Overrated does not mean bad. Okay, can we get there? It doesn't mean bad. It doesn't mean that it's not as great as you make it out to be. That's all I'm saying. Let me ask you this though, quick. So what's your wrestling sweet spot? What era? Like what years? What era is your sweet spot? Like your favorite? Like that's like your sweet, like sugary. My comfort zone wrestling, because I mean 50 plus years of wrestling, that has like some favorites here.
Yeah, it's going to be an overlap between Attitude and Ruthless, so I would say from 97 to 2007.
Mine will probably always forever be the Hulkamania era.
Yeah,
86-92 is my sweet spot. Anything when Hogan ruled the world and Savage and Warrior, that's my work spot. But I will say though, that while I agree that era was overrated as hell, 1997 WWF was a phenomenal year.
Yes.
In hindsight. Like, seeing Bret Hart's character from a face to a heel, Austin's ascent, Shawn Michaels, that's the first Shawn Michaels of all time, is that that year. The start of DX. Yeah. The start of the Attitude Era, to me, was fun. But then you lose Michaels for 4 years. Austin obviously is the guy, but there's still some bit of a who's next? And we eventually get The Rock behind him, but there's a little bit of things there in the Attitude Era that I do love, obviously, but the things I find a little overrated. That's all. But I think my sweet spots, Hulkamania era definitely is my sweet spot, and then I think 1997 is my sweet spot.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I'm with you. Like there's certain parts of Hulkamania, New Gen, Attitude, Ruthless, and even I guess you could say the PG era if we're gonna go from what like I guess it would be 2010 to
20
to this year,
17, 18. No, I would say PG 2018, 2019, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's certain pay-per-views and matches that stand out to me, but the most time that I spent with it was from 98 to from 97 to 2007. Like that 10-year stretch, I was locked in every week. Every week.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, one last topic out of here. You mentioned also talking about the NBA actually, and we're obviously we're very close to the NBA Finals. Boston's in the finals. We're still waiting for the winner of the Wolves and Mavericks. The Wolves did survive Game 4, so against swept. We'll see how that goes. But you mentioned about asking about whether or not we are seeing a shift in power within the NBA. Yeah. That's an absolute yes for me, and we've been seeing that for a couple of years now.
Yeah, I would agree. So, so here's the reason I brought up that question is that it seems like the media will pitch that question just to stir up the pot. Very similar to like Jordan, LeBron, like who do you pick? Like they do it to stir up some sort of reaction, which I understand.
Right.
But the reason why I have an issue with that is because we can look at different decades and different eras. There was always a wealth of talent. So why is it that we only, like, it seems like nowadays we make it all about one person being the face of the league. But if we go back and look at the 90s, of course, we know Jordan was king, but you still had Penny Hardaway. You had Larry Johnson. I mean, like
Charles Barkley,
Charles Barkley,
Stockton,
exactly.
Olajuwon,
Hakeem. Scottie Pippen, even though I got issues with what he's been saying lately.
He's just crazy. That's why.
Yeah, Grant Hill, Gary Payton. I mean, like there were so many like great players that were household names. You know what I'm saying? So, but now it seems like everyone's so focused on finding the guy, the face of the league. You know, like because in many people's minds, LeBron has been that guy. But I can name other players that are in equal footing, if not right, or close to where LeBron was as far as like popularity or being an all around talent. So I find it interesting that it seemed more like a media driven narrative about power shift, the face, when you can celebrate individual players for the unique talents. Does that make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense. But here's what I'll say about that too also, and think about this too also. One can argue that we haven't really had much too many faces in the league to think about it. In the 75 plus years rich history of the NBA. While you may have players who are the best player in the league for a year or 2 or 3 years, there's been some eras which hasn't been so definitive. Like, for example, you go through the 60s, obviously Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain and all that.
Yep.
In the 70s, there was not a definitive best player in basketball. There wasn't a definitive face of the league. Like you would say Kareem was best player in the league, but Kareem was also not very friendly with the media. So a lot of times
I would argue Julius Erving was the guy.
And even that's complicated because he was in the ABA for the first like half of that decade. So I would argue Magic and Bird shared that role for the 80s. And then Jordan took that over probably in late 80s, early 90s.
Yep.
After that, people say Kobe, Shaq, or Duncan. I would argue because of Kobe's legal issues in 2003, he was never really the face of the league because of that stuff in Colorado. Because even though he was the best player for a couple of years, he was never really the face of the league because of that stuff hanging over his head.
So I'm glad you brought that up because that reminds me. I was watching Shaq's podcast and Draymond Green was on there talking about it, and Shaq said,
I saw that.
Why is that? Kobe's never mentioned as one of the GOATs with Jordan and LeBron, and I actually agreed with what Draymond said. I said, or he had said that Kobe won 3 titles with Shaq, like that was a main point of criticism against him, and then you had LeBron coming into the league in 2003. And then you had the legal issues, like you said, in Eagle, Colorado.
Yeah.
And then, for a couple of years, like the Lakers didn't make the playoffs. like they missed the playoffs, and then it wasn't until they stole pretty much like got Pau Gasol for free once they traded Kwame Brown.
Right, and not only that,
the other players.
Kobe Bryant was the best player in the league when the Lakers weren't good.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, that it was 05-06 is when he was averaging 35 and he dropped to 81.
And they were not good.
Yeah, they sucked.
Yeah, so
they sucked. So
and by the time they got good again, LeBron's facing the league at that point.
Exactly. Yeah, and then it was 08, 09 that it was 07, 08 is when Lakers lost to the Celtics. Right. Then 08, 09 they beat the Magic, and then 09, 10 is when the Lakers beat the Celtics. So
right.
So there was a stretch there where there was a lot of things happening at one time. But yeah, like you said, even then during the 2000s, like there's several players that were worthy of being the face of the league, and everyone was kind of fighting, like kind of jockeying for position. But then once LeBron came in the league, like they pretty much handed him, the crown at that point.
But LeBron, the reason why LeBron, whether or not we like it or not, LeBron is, with LeBron, it always felt definitive.
Yeah.
But Kobe did not feel definitive. But Shaq didn't feel definitive because Shaq was the best player for a couple of years, but that was just 2-3 years and he was gone. LeBron has been the best player, has been the face of the league because he's the guy that has the most attention to this day. At age 39 years old, turning 40 in December, he's still any news about him like becoming a free agent, whatever it may be, is massive news to this day.
So I'll tell you, I think where the media or the public perception changed for Kobe is when he came out for the Redeem Team. Like if anyone saw the documentary, like like he's in the thick of the like you said, the going to court and all that stuff. But then when he set the tone at practice of like, hey, like I'm gonna set the tone. Like we're gonna have edge. We're not gonna repeat what happened in Athens. All that. That's when people were like, okay, like Kobe's really that dude. Like the Lakers may not be there yet, but Kobe's still the guy. Like he's the guy.
Right.
And you saw LeBron saying that, you saw Wade saying that, Melo, several people, Coach K, like several people started speaking up on his behalf. And then we saw what he did. I mean, he was a huge part of them winning the gold medal in 08. I think around that time is when it started to change, and it's unfortunate because that's a huge gap from 04 to 08, those 4 years. Yeah.
To me, being a face of the league has to do a lot with needle moving.
Yeah,
day.
For sure.
Moving a needle in which way? LeBron James for the last 20 years has moved a needle in ways that we haven't seen since Jordan.
Right.
Even if you hate LeBron James, that's more reason that he moves the needle because he gives a reaction either negative or positive. The fact that you go out of your way to say he's not the GOAT, for example, this is what the haters now. Only proves why he's in the conversation for being the GOAT because you're emotional about the other way of the argument. That therefore, that makes the argument now. If you just ignored him, didn't talk about him, then he's not moving the needle anymore.
Yeah.
So that's why fair. LeBron James in that top two discussion for me always. So
all right. So he would be on. I know where I'm kind of sliding into topic here, but he would be on your Mount Rushmore, NBA.
He has
he's
to be,
top
right?
If he's top two, like you said, he's in your
Mount
Rushmore.
It's complicated because like I've always felt that Mount Rushmore does not necessarily mean best players of all time. To me, maybe the most impactful players. And to me, I would argue Steph Curry, what he's done in the last 10, 15 years with his shooting has changed the game of basketball in the last generation.
Absolutely, yeah.
So Steph Curry's in my top 10, not my top 5, but I would argue he's in Mount Rushmore because he's changed the game.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I mean, there's no definitive Mount Rushmore for NBA for me yet. Like, obviously, you go, obviously, Jordan's on there, of course. You gotta get a Russell because Russell was that guy before in that era. Yep. Then it gets complicated with the Magic Bird thing. Like, if you could do like a Magic Bird split, cool. Split like statue, that's 3. Yeah. And then you can go either Steph or LeBron as the 4th guy.
Interesting. Okay, so I have my 4, and I've been pretty set with it for like the last, I would say, like 5-7 years. My Mount Rushmore's been intact. And you named 2 of them already. Jordan and Russell are for sure on there.
Right.
Wilt Chamberlain and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Wow.
That to me is a perfect 4.
Interesting.
And again, you can make argument, like you said, if I could split a statue between Magic and Bird, I would do it. And I could see the argument for LeBron and for Steph.
I think Mount Rushmore, though, for me, it's more about affecting, like I said, needle moving. Who moves the needle? Like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is a top 3 all-time player for me, but in terms of commerce outside of basketball, he didn't move the needle in the same way that LeBron has or Jordan has, or those guys. And a lot of it's because he didn't want to. Same with Tim Duncan. Yeah. Tim Duncan is literally a Ray Allen for being 6-0 in the finals. And we don't even consider him in the top 5 because he wasn't exciting. He wasn't moving commerce in the same way that Jordan and Kobe did. He just showed him play basketball.
He's definitely top 10 for sure.
I haven't had a Kobe on my list, to be honest with you.
Say the last part.
I have Duncan. I had a Kobe on my list actually. I have number 7.
I'm actually not mad at that because I've compared their careers before, and there's a lot of overlap and similarities.
It's just consistency. Consistency.
Yeah, it's the consistency that's different. Yeah,
you can't say rings because you can't say rings because they're both the same amount of rings.
Yeah, and I want to say I'll have to go back and look. I saw this somewhere. I think every season that Duncan played, they always won at least 50 games a season.
Well, put it this way.
But besides the lockout year, I think that would have been 99 was the lockout.
No, the stat was either that or he never missed the playoffs ever in his career.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. That may have been what I've seen. Is
Kobe
like during the regular season.
Yeah. Kobe can't say that. Neither could Jordan.
Yep, that's true.
Or LeBron, for that matter.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
So,
when you think about that.
But in terms of power shift in the NBA, we're seeing power shift within the NBA in terms of within the basketball world. In terms of who's face the league, I would still argue LeBron still face the league because we still talk about like he's still the best player in basketball. And I don't think that would change until he retires, honestly. Until he's gone.
Well, so I do agree with you. I think when he leaves, I think there'll be more appreciation, but a lot of media outlets, ESPN being the biggest culprit here.
Yeah.
There's just so much, like LeBron has become how you feel about the Attitude Era. We know he's great, but there's just so much romanticizing of LeBron. Don't get me wrong. I think it's great that he's played 20, 21 years in the league and he's still performing at an elite level. Yeah. But they tend to gloss over other things that he did wrong.
Depends who you talk to.
As a whole.
No, I think you get equal. I think you get equal energy on both ends of the argument. Like for every person that praises LeBron on in the media, LeBron this and that, ESPN, kissing his ass every minute or you do have a Skip Bayless who sits there and criticizes him to the hilt.
Yeah.
Fair, unfair. Well, unfair mostly in my opinion, because to me, Skip Bayless is a clown. So you get the equal emotion, different sides of the argument because LeBron.
Yeah.
So you don't get
so you think it balances out because of that?
Yeah. So like the people, the reason why people like this is why I get pissed at people who hate LeBron so much. Like you are so mad about the stands of LeBron, but they react that way because you guys are heavy handed on one end of the argument that the other side has to be feels like they have to be heavy on the other side as well too in the argument. That's why. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it leaves no nuance in the conversation.
Okay. So again, you kind of bringing it full circle as far as like the shift in power. I agree with you. Like LeBron's been the guy for the last
15,
close to 2 decades. Yeah.
Yeah.
So who do we think is going to be like possibly the face of the league, or could it be 1, 2, 3 players that share it?
It's funny because I don't know if any of these guys right now that are currently on my top 5 or 10 right now are necessarily face of the league. A lot of it is I don't know if they'll move the needle in the same way LeBron did. LeBron's story is very interesting. Best player is Nikola Jokic. He has no interest in being the face of the league. He has no interest in being that guy. He doesn't want to be that guy. He wants to play basketball.
He's like the new school Tim Duncan for us.
Correct. So number 2 on the list, Steph Curry is facing out now. He's still top 5, top 10 player in the league, but he's not the same guy. He's on the back end of his career. You have Luka. We'll see how that plays out, but Luka has a lot of detractors too because of he whines a lot and all this kind of stuff. I mean, Ant-Man is probably the only on the guy that probably has a chance to be that way. But we're kind of like at this point now where let's for example, let's say that LeBron retires this summer. Let's just play it real quick. LeBron retires this summer. We're kind of back to like 1999, 2000, where no Jordan. So now we have all these great talented players, but no one's really the definitive face of the league. We're kind of back to there again, in a sense. So that's why LeBron is almost the default answer, because LeBron still moves the needle in ways that no player in this league has done it since Michael Jordan. And I'm not talking about on the court. I'm talking about off the court as well too.
Mm-hmm.
He still does at 39 years old, and that's why he's in the conversation greatest of all time.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to think of. Yeah, I think you may be right. I think we may be in that transition phase where
the lull.
Yeah. The 2020s may be like the 2000s, where you have several players that are great and they're all kind of jockeying for position, but nobody is the clear standout yet. Like it's yet to be determined who's. And it is
not just also winning on the court and also all that. Because look, Tim Duncan won a lot of rings, but he wasn't the face of the league because the personality didn't really. You know what I'm saying? It just didn't grab the same way.
Yeah,
like Shaq had a couple years.
Personality.
Right. Now look, if Shaq, let's say you put Shaq's career and Tim Duncan's career, swap them out. Now you got a conversation there. Because you have the 5 rings, the consistent winning, and then on top of that, the personality.
Yeah. Ooh, if you give Shaq Duncan's career and you take the personality and all that, then yeah, I would say like he should be no lower than 3 at that point.
Exactly. Yeah. So we haven't seen a face of the league since Michael Jordan.
Yeah, no, I agree.
That's the bottom line, in my opinion, anyway.
No, I'm with you. And again, like you said, people are going to argue LeBron, which I totally get. But as far as like, I mean, like I know I'm going to sound like an old head when I say this, but like you had to be outside when Jordan was at his peak. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, you say you sound like an old head, but I am an old head. So.
Right. That's true. Yeah, I mean, you were a kid when you were in your teenage years during the.
Dude, I watched all the Jordan rings in real time. Real time.
Crazy.
I watched those finals in real time.
Yeah.
From 91 to 98.
I was old enough to remember watching his second three-peat because again I was in diapers during the first three-peat. Yeah. So
I remember where I was all 6 titles. I watched all those games live. I know exactly where I was. All 6 titles.
That's so dope, man.
And I hate the Bulls as a kid, for the record. I'm not a Bulls fan. Never been.
Okay, so who's your team back then?
I'm still a Heat fan to this day.
Okay, all right. So you were rocking with
Ronnie Cycli, Glenn Rice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I go way back, man.
All right.
I don't play around, man. I don't play around.
We'll see. No, Tim Hardaway was more mid late
mid 2000s, mid 90s, yeah, 96.
Yeah.
She got traded there. He got traded 96. Yeah.
Man.
So I was there before then. So
wow.
Anyway, Chris, great job. First on the pod, excellent job, excellent podcast. You have anything you want to plug? Want to plug your Twitter handle, X handle? What do you call it now?
Yeah, sure. If anybody wants to check out stuff that I've written about, it's on medium.com /Chris Lacy 1990. That's CHRIS LACY 1990. I'm on Twitter. I'm still gonna call it Twitter. I know it's called X, but it's Twitter.
You ain't the only one. Trust me.
Yeah. If anybody wants to at me on Twitter, it's Chris Lacy 0215, CHRIS LACY 0215. Hit me up, man. As EJ will tell you, I'm always up for conversation. So we can chop it up about sports, music, politics, religion, wrestling, whatever y'all want to talk about.
Politics? Oh boy, don't get me started, man.
Man. Yeah. Well, we're coming up on the on election time here in a few months. So maybe we can have a conversation then, man.
I love politics. I love politics. So we start on that, man.
All right.
People, I frustrate both sides, so don't you worry.
No, hey, listen, that I think that's okay. Like a lot of people just assume that I'm just a straight laced conservative, but I actually have a couple views that would fall more on the liberal side. So
same here.
So maybe we'll have that conversation another time.
We will have another time.
Yeah.
Chris, great job as always, man.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you.